Hello everyone. Today's session is going to be a bit different. Here we are diving into some tough but no nonsense questions that people might be avoiding. Today we got a special guest, Mark from Orlando, Florida, joining us to share his honest take on the current state of Agile. So there are a lot of things which are going on. But before we jump into it, if you're new to our channel, Careers Talk, take a quick look around, browse some, sessions here and there. And if you find some content valuable, interesting, consider hitting that subscribe button. And at the end, if you resonate with Mark's thought, which I'm sure you will, so show your love by smashing that like button and don't forget to comment what you like or dislike about this session. So, with this thought, let's get started. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for taking your time today. And over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my name's Mark Prather. I live in Orlando, Florida. I've been doing Agile and Scrum for probably going on a decade now. I've got a background in service industry. I was a bartender right before I got to the corporate world, and I've kind of seen it come and go. I've seen the uptick in Agile and then the now falling off on it. Um, and I'm a little jaded.
We have a very interesting question out there for you, then, Mark. Okay, so if you allow, shall we start?
Sure.
Okay. So, friend, before we start, this session is basically inspired by one of the posts by Mark on LinkedIn. And I really like that post for various reasons. And then I reach out to Mark to have this session. And so, most of the questions will be interesting for you. So, let's see how Mark is going to take those questions. So, Mark, you mentioned that wave of getting rid of Agile is not Agile's fault. So, according to you, whose fault do you think it is? And what factors basically contribute to the negative perception of agile in some of the organization? So, what is your thought on that, Mark?
I think that there's a lot of nuance inside of that. I think that putting the blame on one person is very um, hard to do. I think that Agile was itself a response to the Department of Defense here in America with these books and books of requirements, and they're like, yeah, that's not there. Um, I think that Agile also assumes that companies are in a much better state than I think a lot of companies are in. Um, so I don't know if it's completely not Agile's fault, but I don't think it's as much Agile's fault as it's getting the blame. There's a lot of companies out there that are saying, hey, this is we tried doing Agile, it didn't work, and they didn't try it. They didn't have the organization at the top level to be able to go into it, or they didn't choose the right flavor for what they were trying to get to. So I think there's a lot of nuance inside of that. So if I could put the blame on any one person, I don't put it on the blame on the person. I put it on the blame on the communication. There was a bad communication fault. And I think having done this job long enough and played with this long enough, it's never one person's fault. It's usually just a miscommunication somewhere. So yeah,
Thank,
there.
thank you. Thanks, Mark. Great. So, you already is into industry from last, let's say, 10 years. So, how do you perceive the evolution of agile over the years? Like, has it truly adapted to the changing need of organization, or has it become a victim of its own success? So that's an interesting one for you, Mark.
Yeah, I think that there's two kind of approaches that Agile's taken on. There's the consultancy approach, which has given us lovely things like Safe and Nexus and Agile coaches and leadership and more certifications than you can shake a stick at. Um, and then there's the people that have been doing it, the hired on direct hires, which have given us Scrum Ban, Agile and name only, and other ways to ease that transformation. I think looking at it overall, the biggest thing that I remember a couple of years ago was the term forecast in the Scrum guide versus commitment. And how do we change with those words? And I'm like, that is figuring out the placemat settings on the Titanic, guys. We have far bigger issues to go over. But seeing how Agile has kind of grown and adapted, it hasn't much. It's just kind of weekend and weekend, and now it's just the same SDLC as anything else. Um, yeah, that's kind of where I see it.
That's great, Mark. Okay, so you mentioned about the certifications, right? So how do you view the effectiveness of those 2 day certification courses, in preparing the individuals for this complex role of a Scrum Master? And I
I
have a
think
follow-up question also on that, but please go ahead.
they're an MVP. They are the minimum viable product to get you in the door.
Got it.
They are one step above reading the book, and that's about it.
True.
I think that people come in afterwards and they're like, "Well, I've done everything. I've read all of the book," and I'm like, "That's cute. Sit down."
That's great. So, why do you think that many Scrum Masters, they stop learning and after doing this initial certification? So, or what could be done to encourage the continuous learning and development in these kind of roles, Mark?
I think that gets to a huge problem that corporate America is having right now. One, most of the roles of Scrum Masters fall under what David Graeber has a book out called I'm gonna clean up the language a little bit, but BS jobs. And he talks about it, and Scrum Master falls well in the category of those kind of BS jobs, jobs that don't really do anything, but they're just kind of there because we need people to make us feel good. We have a Scrum Master because the book said we needed one. I think that there's a bigger problem right now, though, with companies not having solid vision statements or mission statements. They don't know why they're making money. So they don't know what they're doing at the top. So how can we help them figure out success if they don't know what it looks like? Uh, there's that all the way around. The Crucial Conversations has a set, and one of their books, Influencer, has a great system inside of it for talking about how where somebody's getting stuck, and they say it's either you, the team around you, or the company, and it's either you don't want to do it or you can't do it. And I think a lot of this is coming from the company's not set up to change. They don't want to. This is something that's been working for them, so why should I do this agile thing? We only want it from the book, so just sit down and shush. I think that's most of the reasons, is they're just not set up for it. And I'm not sure of an easy answer to fix that.
Hmm, true. So why do you think that this role of Scrum Master is diminishing in various organizations nowadays? You might have heard about, Capital One entirely shut down their division with respect to Agile Scrum. So, like, as someone who feel caught in the wave of this diminishing role for Scrum Master, how do you personally cope up with this kind of situation? And if you can also tell some strategies which you use to stay relevant and valuable to your team and the organization, so that will be great.
Yeah, this is this is one of those ones that, like, I fell so far down this rabbit hole. I would not recommend going this far for it. But I went back to university and I got my bachelor's in project management. I delved so far into things that at one point I was looking at if Scrum itself is supposed to be a holocratic team basis where there are no people. What are some of the longest running holocracies that have been out there? And that's how I got onto what can the Quaker Faith and Practice books teach us, and the teachings of the Quaker faith teach us about how to run holocratic societies. And when you're telling your manager, no, 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 the Christians over here do this, he kind of looks at you weird. So I think for me, the best thing that I could tell other Scrum Masters or other people that are in this field is find the problems and don't be afraid to realize that there aren't books for you about them. Try to pivot something from somewhere else and bring it in. A lot of the stuff that I learned about lean manufacturing, I knew from working in kitchens. A lot of the stuff I've learned from dealing with people, I learned from the short stint that I did teaching kindergartners. Um, there's a lot of great things out there and a lot of great points out there that once you pick apart what your actual problem is, there are people that have solved it. It's just trying to translate it.
True, true. And I think one of the reason is that education is again, I think the role of a scrum master is misunderstood by many. Sometimes even the organization or the teams may not fully understand the value that a scrum master can bring. Even the scrum master itself sometimes don't know, like what are their capabilities. Honestly, like I have seen that. So if the role is seen just as an administrative, or if the responsibilities I think not well communicated, well defined, it might lead to the perception of diminishing importance of a scrum master in any organization. I think that is again one of the, yeah, I think the key point which some of the times I observed, Mark.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that it very much plays into that idea of why do we have you here? Because a lot of the stuff that the Scrum Master role is built around is things that have been going on for a long while. My mother was a Unix systems administrator and a systems analyst, so I grew up around this tech field and everything like that. And I'll talk with her about some of the headaches I've had, and she's, wow, that's still a problem. So I think that this role has always been here. I think that the fights that Scrum Masters have always been around. It's just most of the time, uh, the person isn't paid for it or trained to be able to deal with it. And I don't think that those fights and questions are going anywhere. It's just companies are figuring out ways to quiet it for a little while so that they can concentrate on short-term gains.
So in your experience, do you feel, or do you seen that the upper management or the other stakeholders, misunderstood the role of scrum master? And maybe if you want to share some of your, past experience, that how they have impacted your ability to support your team, so do you have any
Yeah,
past
I have.
experience? Yeah.
Uh, I worked for a company once that I got asked to change the burn down charts. The burn down charts weren't going the same way, but mid sprint, every time a bug came into the company, we need to blow up the sprint and add the bugs. The bugs are our first priority because those are affecting customers. And so the burn downs would naturally go up because we're adding stuff to the sprint and then not taking it off, where they would go up and down because we take things in and out and in and out. And he uh, they weren't exactly thrilled with me as the scrum master. You should make the burn down charts go down. That's what burn down charts do. And I tried to explain to them, like, hey man, that's not, it's showcasing what is happening inside the company. All I'm doing is shining a light on some bad practices that are going on. And realizing that I was shining a bad light on them, they fired me because that's the quickest way to get rid of the light. Um, that happens a lot. I've got stories like that, and I think every scrum master out there has stories like that, where, all I was doing was telling truth to power, and power got rid of me real quick. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think everybody who's listening to this has that kind of story. I
True.
think one of the things that we need to do as scrum masters is realize what it is that they want us to do. I find that the role of scrum master is a lot more like therapist, where I'm just like, all right, what do you want me to do? And a lot of the times it's a company projecting onto you their fears and
Mm.
not hate, but their fears and insecurities, and then blaming you and putting you up as a scapegoat, which is one of the major problems with this role. Um, Over the years, I've gotten a thick skin, and it's not about me. But I'm constantly redoing my resume, updating my resume, and I've gotten really good at interviewing for jobs.
That's great. Okay, let's talk about something different. So do you think that there are other alternative approaches or methodologies or anything, which you believe could better address the needs of our modern organization? I mean, it can be anything, maybe XP, Kanban, Six Sigma, or Toyota factory system, any other thing which you can think of, or we should continue with whatever we are doing right now.
I think that it's always helpful to realize where each of the flavors of agile come in and what they were built to do. I think we have a long problem right now of people coming in and they're conflating the terms in Agile and Scrum. And Agile and Scrum are very different. Agile came in 2001. Scrum came around in 1986. Uh, XP is the early 90s. Most of the things that are out there, the Toyota factory system is from the quality management system in the 1940s. So, I mean, most of these come from Edward Deming's ideas. So, to be able to say, what are alternative approaches? They're all the same kind of approach. They're just built for different parts of the company. Scrum itself is built for the idea of teams and product, and it is much more business focused than developer focused. And that's one of the major hiccups that we have right now is a lot of Scrum Masters are told just work with the developers, but do it in a way that's only built for business people. And that's where a lot of our failure is. I think that if you pick up some XP practices and you can convince developers to pair program, add TDD, all of that stuff, you'll be a lot better off. If you can figure out some of the lean practices and get those going, if you can figure out some of the Toyota factory systems inside of those, I think those are great as well. But it's a matter of what the company hired you to do and come back. I think that the role of Scrum Master needs to change into a process manager or a product manager where they come in and you're not advocating for Scrum, you're advocating for efficiencies. Here's what 60 coming on 100 years of research has taught us on how to do what you want to do. Do you guys want to try some of these things that have worked for many other companies? You're right, they may not work for you, but should we try those? And I think that's where the role needs to be, but that takes a lot of time. You need to go out and figure out what Prince 2 is, what is the SDLC, what's the difference between a Kanban and a Gantt chart, and why. And I think that's a huge ask for one job, and
True.
a very big ask for one job where a guy's taken a 2-day course.
Absolutely. Great. Okay. So yeah, it's quick.
Yeah.
We are done for today, Mark. So that's really wonderful, and definitely we are going to have a lot of other sessions with you in future. So thank you, Mark, for sharing your thoughts today. And friends, if you found this session valuable, interesting, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and drop a comment with your thoughts. So stay tuned for more such conversation. Thank you, guys. Bye. Thank you, Mark, one more time.
Thank you.